All right, today's video we're going to talk about the big kahuna in the room, entrepreneurial depression. If you're experiencing this, don't worry, you're not alone. It's something that we all can face over the course of our life as an entrepreneur. Whether you be starting a business, your business has already got legs under you, you're generating revenue, or even your business is wildly successful. But just the nature of entrepreneurships with all the highs and lows that can happen, especially financially, in terms of growth, setbacks, and things like that, can create all these different, sometimes dark emotions within us, all right? So today we're going to talk about different techniques I've used over the years to really sort of calm these emotions, help me get centered, and continue upon the process of serving people through my business. So let's get started. So one of the classic mistakes that people make, and I have absolutely made this mistake over the years, is looking at the cash flow of their business on an hourly basis, a 5-minute basis, even on a daily basis. If this is how you're measuring success, whether or not you're making sales on a single hour basis or that often, you're gonna have a lot of swings. You know, this day we made a ton of sales, and so you feel super rich. And then the next day you didn't make as many sales, so you feel low and you feel depressed, right? So one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is don't look at your cash flow in such small incremental levels, okay? Look at it more on a weekly, a monthly, or ideally even a quarterly basis if you can, right? This allows you to breathe a little bit more easy and not be so reactionary, right? You might be one of those people who's addicted to your phone. You maybe even have a special sound that bings on your phone, when you make a sale. Turn that stuff off, okay? This is a monkey mind type stuff that's really going to cause you a lot of stress, right? So again, look a little bit more long term. You're going to see that there's a lot more peace of mind when you're not judging sales on the second by second basis. Now, if you're like me, your business in many ways is your life, right? It's what you spend your most time and energy doing. You're passionate about it. You're excited about it. This is your mission. It's the way that you feed your family, or it's your project, or, if you have a very successful business, you have a lot of employees and customers that you're serving, right? But it's a big integral part of your life. And oftentimes, especially early in a business, we start sort of building this self-identity that's really interwoven with the business itself, right? So as the business is doing, either how you're doing the business or how the business is doing financially, or whether or not your employees are happy, all this sort of meandering kind of day-to-day stuff that happens throughout a business, a lot of times we can sort of start self-identifying with this stuff, and it's almost like a commentary on us as well. This is a really dangerous thing if you are in your mind the business. Some people say, well, I'm not the business, I have people working for me. Well, or I have, automated systems in place. Well, sure, that's a great starting point. But again, it's that mental separation between who are you as a person that's separate from the business. So a few things that I recommend you do is get some hobbies outside of your business. And you may say, well, I don't have time for hobbies. Well, actually, you need to have hobbies. You need to have stuff that can help you build a concept of self that just isn't in your business, okay? Trust me, I'm one of those guys who, given a choice, I could work 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I enjoy working, but it also leads to severe burnout at a certain point. So I have to make sure I have a couple of those things in place, right? So for me, it's time with family. I love hanging out with my family, right? Yoga and meditation. I love to hike, right? I watch movies, just things where I don't have to think about business at all, and I get to be my own self separate from the business, okay? So ask yourself that question. Do you have that in place? If not, start with one thing, just something that has nothing to do with the business. It's really gonna help you out a lot. All right, here's the next one we're going to talk about. It's the S word, not that S word that you're thinking of. It's the S word known as sleep. Are you getting at least 7 hours of sleep per night? Well, newsflash, businesses cause stress, right? Things happen, good, bad. There's a lot of ups and downs, right? And especially if you're working hard like I do in my business, right? you're gonna, at the end of the day, be pretty fatigued, right? And our body needs time to recuperate, okay? And sleep is the single best way to let our body and our emotions heal, right? So you want to make sure that you're providing time for yourself to sleep every night. You might say, well, I have so much work to do. I'm just gonna do 4 hours of sleep per night because I've got all this work to do. I understand the philosophy, I've been there before, but oftentimes the next day is emotionally very difficult, okay? What I've seen over the years, especially with myself and business associates, is that basically when you have multiple days in a row where you're not sleeping, this is when the depression can start creeping in, right? But it's so funny, you'll think, man, my life is really in bad shape and things are not going well and things are really dark and there's all these problems. And then you just get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, and whatever those emotions were that you're feeling at night, they're oftentimes gone the next day, right? Sleep is that great recharger of our body, okay? It's plugging, the metaphorical cell phone back into the wall and getting that battery recharged again. So make sure you're getting sleep. It can really deter the effects of depression. All right, next thing I want to talk about is more techniques that we need to do to make sure that we're taking care of our body. Business sometimes can feel like a blood sport. You're having to do all kinds of crazy stuff just to keep going. You're having to be patient with, sometimes your employees are upsetting you, or customers are causing you stress, or something went wrong with a marketing thing. There's just so many different things that could cause stress for us in our business, right? So we don't want to add additional stress in our body by, eating bad foods and not working out. You want to make sure you're taking care of your body. So, spend some additional money on, healthy foods, and don't say, well, I can't spend the extra $2 on fruits and vegetables at the store, right? You're thinking short term there, right? Yeah, cool. McDonald's is cheaper than eating, maybe a green salad or a green smoothie, but cheaper in the short term, much more expensive in the long term, right? Entrepreneurship is a marathon, it is not a sprint, and you need to be making sure that you're taking care of your health along the way, right? When you take care of your physical body, you're also taking care of your mind and your emotional body as well. All right, now, one sort of final tip in relation to taking care of your body. If you're an entrepreneur that has some cash flow going on and you do have some additional money to spend, I highly recommend you get grocery delivery so you don't have to go out last second and have your blood sugar drop and you're gonna be eating these crap foods or have pizza delivered and stuff like that. Get the grocery deliveries going, right? And if you don't have grocery delivery in your area, then pay an assistant, pay somebody just a small amount of money to go up and pick up fruits and vegetables for you as well, right? Another thing, okay, in terms of self-awareness, right? I am, honest with myself, and I have a gym membership, but a lot of times I won't go unless I hire a personal trainer, right? Now, would I love to save the money and not spend money on a personal trainer? Of course I would, but the personal trainer keeps me accountable, right? So yeah, I'm spending some additional money. Sometimes it's not great when cash flows are tight or whatever for a particular month, but again, just that investment in yourself allows me to work for long periods of time and feel good and be consistent in my work. And of course, everybody knows that exercise and eating well is a beautiful cure for depression. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is what it looks like when you're doing all the work by yourself in your business, or you're doing too much work in your business. Well, that creates stress, right? All this responsibility to keep everything going. You want to grow the business, keep it going, feed your family. It can get really dark, especially once the stress starts building and it seems like there's no end in sight. So one of the best ways to start slowly reducing that stress is building out some systems in your business, writing out some processes, and then slowly starting to help, hire people who can help you to succeed and reduce this stress. I'll give you a perfect example, right? We all have our sort of quirks as part of our personality goes, right? But for whatever reason, I don't enjoy email. I don't like sitting in the email box, which is very ironic considering I've made millions of dollars over the years by literally just sending out emails, right? I enjoy composing emails and creating content through email, but I don't like sitting in the inbox. And when I sit for an hour or two in an inbox, I'm like dark, man. It's just not a happy place for me, right? So what I have in place is I have teams of people who help me and answer my emails for me, right? I can go some real existentially weird places if I'm doing a lot of my own emails. And there's this self-awareness factor of, what I don't enjoy doing in my particular business. And then I hire to alleviate that stress, okay? And again, I'm thinking long-term. I don't want to get debilitated by entrepreneurial stress, right? So ask yourself that question. Are there things in your business that you're doing that are stressing you out that really you're not the only one qualified to do, right? Other people can send emails, other people can drop off products. There's a lot of stuff that you're doing that probably, other people could do for you and can lower stress, right? So again, little strategies here as we're moving up to help you combat that entrepreneurial depression. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the strategy of taking time off and how that can actually lower depression in your life. All right, so basically, I'm one of those dudes who for many, many, many years, okay, I took like 3 days off during my honeymoon, and then my next day off was like 13 years later. I was like one of those type of guys, right? And I got a lot of work done, made a lot of money, got a lot of stuff done, helped a lot of customers, right? And I enjoyed my work. It wasn't miserable or anything like that. I really enjoyed it. But what I noticed is that, and everybody's gonna have different burnout phases that happen, right? For me, it took me 13 years. For some people, they get burned out every 3 months, right? We all sort of have our own natural rhythm there. But what I noticed is that when I started getting burnt out, I was getting depressed about all kinds of different stuff. I was feeling unmotivated to work in my business or work on new projects. I was struggling with being the leader that I wanted to be. It wasn't a particularly happy place, right? And so, I'm a guy who didn't like to take time off. Why would I take time off? Time off is for soft people, right? Well, super short-minded thinking. I was not thinking the right way. Finally, my friends and family said, Steve, why don't you just take like a week off, see how it feels. It doesn't have to be forever. You don't have to change your whole mindset. Just try a week off. Whew, man, let me tell you, okay? That was maybe my best 7 days in the last 5 years. It allowed me to find myself again. Who am I outside of my business, right? And again, as I mentioned in the earlier tips, sometimes it can get really confusing when all you're doing is focusing on your business, right? So what are some signs of burnout and how can we prevent them so you're not depressed? Well, again, like I said, you're getting short with your team, right? You're finding yourself wanting to take the easy way out. You're not motivated to work. You're nervous in terms of what's going on. Everything feels so heavy that happens. You're not getting joy out of the wins in your business. That's some time to take, to sort of reprocess again and think about taking some time off, right? There's a famous business coach by the name of Dan Sullivan who talks about, having sort of like scheduled in off days where just like, I do not work during this time, just sort of recharging time, all right? So now what I do at this point is I take off at least 1 day per week, all right? Again, I still sort of have that instinct of the dude who wants to work, but I know that if I truly, truly want to be successful, I need to make sure that I know who I am outside that business. Because again, depression drains you of your energy, okay? So make sure you're taking that time off and that you're avoiding that burnout. Now here's a really common behind the scenes cause of depression. And a lot of entrepreneurs won't really talk about that, but it really comes from hiring the wrong people in your business, okay? And so sometimes what will happen is that, you'll have people working for you and they're doing sort of a B or C level job, right? You have to constantly get involved and fix their work, or they're, late on deadlines, or they're just, yes, they're solving problems, but they're also causing problems at the same time as well, right? So, when you're thinking about hiring people, in one way, yeah, cool, I'll save some money and I'll hire people who are cheap and aren't, I can save money and I'll just spend a little bit of extra time coaching and I'll train them. It won't be that big of a deal. And sometimes that works, but a lot of times it's not a great strategy because it ends up causing all this stress, right? And again, we're talking about depression, about, this entrepreneurial depression can sometimes come from feeling like you have the weight of the world on you, right? So if you're hiring a team and they're not fully solving problems, you can't delegate to them, they're not relieving this stress for you, you still have to be involved in that process. There may be a disconnect there, right? There may be a disconnect, okay? So, it's having those tough conversations with yourself, like, do you have the right people who are helping you on your team to help serve you, right? Business is about everybody serving each other, right? But if the entrepreneur who's the top, the head honcho, if you don't have the right people serving you, you're going to have some problems emotionally, right? So think about that. Think about your team from who you have now and also from the initial hiring phase. Are these people going to create stress for me or alleviate stress? And that's a simple way to judge that. So the last strategy I want to talk about today in terms of this depression thing is working with a therapist or a life coach. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll say, well, I don't need to talk about my problems, or I'm going to save money. I'm not going to invest in somebody who could potentially help me. Well, again, like I said in the earlier tip, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? And so when you feel like nobody can relate to what you're going through as a business owner, who can you talk to? Well, therapists are trained professionals to help you organize your mind, rewire some things, some connections you may have made, some wrong thinking patterns. And it's helpful to just talk with people who are there to support you in an unbiased way, who are professionals, right? Here's an example of somebody who has a whole team of people to help him succeed. I don't know if you're a sports fan. I am. I'm a huge NBA basketball fan, right? And LeBron James is super famous for spending what he says over $1 million per year, over 7 figures per year on his mind and body. So he's going to sports therapists, he's working with trainers and coaches and things like that, right? He's working with shooting coaches, you name it. Anything he can do to help himself get that edge, right? So, a therapist can also be somebody who can give you that performance edge as well, okay? So not only from the sort of darker place of depression, but also from the uplifting place of like, hey, I'm also really doing well, and I want someone to continue to hone, my edge that I have and give me all the tools I need to continue to succeed as well, right? No shame ever in working with a therapist, all right? So it's something I highly recommend. So there we have it, entrepreneurial depression. I want to remind you though that you're not alone. It's very, very, very common, okay? So we talked about different strategies you can use to help combat the effects of depression, all right? Continue to stay grounded, continue to stay focused. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just maintain the pace. Remember, entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint, all right? I believe in your potential as an entrepreneur. Continue to find joy, peace, happiness and love in what you do. Serve the people in your market, serve your customers, serve your audience. Do what you do best. Thank you for watching. My name is Steve Nixon, and I'll see you for more videos at strategysamurai.com.